Hello, namaste, and welcome to the Hindu Voice. I want to wish you all women a very happy Women's Day. Women are the spine of any society, and in Hinduism, they are worshipped as Shakti or power. The gods are incomplete and cannot achieve success without the intervention of this power called Shakti. Women all around the world have faced challenges and they have overcome them since the past several centuries, perhaps. Unfortunately, there are still crimes, exploitation, and trafficking of girls. Sometimes the reason is just that they are from a different religion. Sad, isn't it? Most people decide to seal their lips when it comes to women who are poor or in minority and hence voiceless. Today, I am delighted to introduce Paromita Sarkar, Deepti Mahajan, and Utsav Chakravarti from Hindu Action. These brave hearts have dedicated themselves for issues related to child trafficking of girls, Hindu genocides where thousands of women were raped, forced conversions of children. The list is long. So please welcome Paromita Sarkar, Utsav Chakravarti, Deepti Mahajan from Hindu Action. Namaskar and a very warm welcome to all three of you.
Namaste. Thank you for having us.
Namaste. Namaste. We are delighted to have you here. So, before I ask you any other question, first, let me ask you this. Can you give our audiences a brief overview of Hindu Action? What is Hindu Action and what is its mission, vision? Can you please educate us on that first? I'm fine with whosoever goes first.
Yeah, Utsav, you are on mute. Go ahead.
Namaste. And so Hindu Action is actually a very new organization that is dealing with long standing issues. It's a very focused effort. It is primarily focused on filling in the gaps on education, Hindu advocacy, and leadership gaps within the community in strategically important areas like small town America as well as in Washington, D.C. The locations have been chosen in a manner in which other organizations that are already active within the Hindu space, they are not really present in those places, or if present, are in a very weak position in those places. So our responsibility as Hindu Action is to supplement and complement the efforts of the larger Hindu community so that we can fill in the strategic gaps in our advocacy efforts. Uh, in terms of our objectives, we basically focus on enriching policies on civil liberties, public safety, and religious freedom for all Americans, and try to gather experiences from our Hindu civilization to help in that process. We provide input on Hindu ethos to elected officials and corporates so that they can form more inclusive policy frameworks. And largely, we have been involved in the community level to create awareness on advocacy campaigns that are relevant not just to the Hindu community but to all Americans.
Wonderful. Can you give a brief overview, maybe like two or three bullet points about the major projects that you are involved with?
Yes, so it's all of us who are involved in this. So I'm just speaking out first. So without all of our efforts, we cannot do anything. I just want to make it clear. So our three main projects that we are focused on right now at the advocacy level are to make sure that the 1971 genocide, which was one of the largest genocides of the 20th century and that still remains unrecognized in America, gets a formal recognition. More than 3 million people were killed. Most of them were Hindus, and nearly 200,000 women were raped. Most of them were Hindus. And for such a scale of event to be not recognized in the Western world is really a failure on the part of our community and the community of democracies around the world. So that's our first project. The second project that is an ongoing project and that involves a lot of organization, including the organization that Deepti ji represents, which is a Chingari project. Uh, it primarily focuses on the plight of Hindu community in Pakistan, most of whom live in southern Punjab and Sindh. And as Deeptiji will elaborate later on a everyday basis, nearly 3 girls are killed from the are converted from the religious minority community in Pakistan, and that is a travesty of humanity. And today on Women's Day, it's really a point to be discussed. The third project that is an ongoing project for Hindu Action is to do research on those elements in America who are actively spreading Hinduphobia and targeting the Hindu community. So, in the past couple of years, we have been gathering a lot of information through open source gathering, and we have a team that is working very hard. And as you can see today in Toronto, the caste resolution was defeated that was targeted at the Hindu community. And part of the reason that such defeats are happening to the anti Hindu forces is because a lot of work has gone into exposing who these people are and how hateful these people are. So, that kind of opposition research is something we are very much interested in and we continue to do on a regular basis. Those are the 3 advocacy projects. There's one educational project that we are doing, and that is STEM education, yoga, and meditation amongst inner city schools, primarily people of the underprivileged communities, Latinos, African Americans, and anybody else who needs help in STEM education. And for that, we are building up a dedicated team.
Thank you so much, Utsavji, for giving this overview. Definitely, this is very educational, and it's commendable that in such a short span of time, you have a team of dedicated people who are working towards these, towards achieving these end goals, which are so very important for the Hindu community.
You
So,
guys are those people. So,
yes, we do our part. So now that you have touched upon the topic of forced conversions in Pakistan, on March 8th, which is today, International Women's Day, it is indeed very important that we talk about our lost daughters. So please give us some more insight into this inhuman practice and why is the world silent?
I would have Paroji or and Deeptiji both speak about it.
Sure. Please go ahead, Diptiji and Paroji.
Yeah. Deepthi, go ahead, and I'll join a few minutes later. You're
I
on
think
mute.
you're on mute.
Sorry, we
You're
all
on.
are used to the mute button, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, as Utsavji mentioned, that there is a national movement that we have focused on in last couple of years called the Chingari Project. And this, I mean, International Women's Day is one day that we come together and recognize the power of women. And but it's like it's an ongoing thing, it's an everyday issue, it's happening on a daily basis. It has nothing, I mean, it's happening to minorities, but it's not limited to a Hindu community, right? It is an issue that is prevalent for all minorities across Pakistan. And you know, when we talk about Hinduism, right, we come from the background where we grew up with the shloka Yatra Naristu Pujante Ramante Tatra Devata, and that meaning that wherever there is Nari, wherever women are respected and revered, that is where, you know, the gods reside. We do not come with the idea that, you know, that women or girls, little girls who are revered in our community, in our culture, they are going through this forced conversion. So we see these stories like in last 2 months, since January 2023, the known numbers are 19 plus. So we already have 19 stories this year where the little girls have been abducted, converted, raped, sold off. You know, they're missing, and the parents have no information on their child. They cannot meet them. Just having that thought coming from the kind of community that we come from, like it's just mind-boggling how this issue is not on the top of everybody's mind, especially on International Women's Day when we are talking about women empowerment. What about these girls, right? We
So,
see, yeah, go
so
ahead.
1 minute, Diptiji, did you say 19 girls since January?
That's a
January
known
of this
number.
year? They
That's
are
the
literally
number.
abducted and converted, and nobody has even mentioned that, not a word.
Yeah, that's projects like Chingari and all of us. We are the ones who raise these issues through our social media presence, and we make people aware of it. But otherwise, nobody knows.
And what do you think is the reason why nobody knows?
So the awareness, I mean, the world is going through different kind of turmoils, right? Like there is, we see all these phobias that we talk about, right? People are scared of talking about these things. They relate these to, oh, this is more of Islamophobia thing. It's not. It is about a basic human right of a girl, of any girl child. It's a basic human right of any family to keep their children protected.
Deeptiji, this is not the first time that we are talking about this topic, and I know that we have brought it up. This is very close to my heart. This topic is definitely very close to my heart, and I'm so glad that you brought it up on International Women's Day. But it is very hurtful that I think we have done at least two or three programs regarding this. But even after all this, since the uh, January month of this year, 19 girls, little girls, have been abducted, converted, raped, and sent into child trafficking. I don't know where we are headed. It's very shameful. Paroji would like to know your views.
Sure. Thank you again for the opportunity. And I want to begin by saying, Ya Devi Sarve Teshu Shakti Rupena Sangasita, Namastashvai, 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 Namo Namaha. And that's just a small part of how we celebrate womanhood in our culture. I think for way too long, our societies have been conditioned to look away from things that are horrific. There have been talks by people who are familiar on what transgenerational trauma can manifest as. And I feel some of the lack of our ability to speak up is also hindered by the fact that our community, in particular in the Indian subcontinent, has faced an unending campaign of violence against society in the form of violence against women. And it scars us deeply because we hold women in such a venerable position as a mother, as a educator, as the goddess that provides wealth and prosperity. So our entire culture is predicated on recognizing the divine feminine form and worshiping it almost in every aspect of life. So when there is a genocidal maniac who has made it its mission to wipe us out from existence, this is the best way for them to do it. The biggest problem is, as Deeptiji has very rightly pointed out, is when we try to raise our voice, we get hammered down by either direct or indirect accusations of Islamophobia. But what we as a society, not just Hindus, but other people need to realize is by keeping quiet, we are enabling this violence to persist and propagate. We are seeing this violence manifest itself now in European countries by the same ideological um, culprits that treat our children with such hate. And I don't even know how to describe it because it's something we're incapable of feeling. But and we find it difficult to talk about it. They don't even have a voice. Once they're plucked from their families, they don't have their mother, they don't have their father, they don't have their siblings. And we have read of a few occasions where the siblings protested and the brother was killed, attacked. There's a wrong impression, and some people very lightly say things like, well, why don't they fight back? I don't think people realize what they're up against. And we need to develop compassion and fearlessness when talking about this. We can't beat around the bush
No.
and sacrifice the freedoms of thousands and thousands of girls at the altar of political correctness.
Paraji, I can feel that compassion and the pain in your voice. And Deepti ji, I can sense the fearlessness. We need women like you. I think every woman in America should become a voice for these girls. This is such a heartbreaking um, phenomenon which has been happening for god knows how many years. Now let me connect this. You said that this will continue if we do not if we do not open our mouth and if we don't voice it out. So let me connect this to the Bangladesh genocide of Hindus in 1971, which Utsavji just mentioned. So that had a similar outcome. Thousands of Hindu women were raped and killed. Isn't that true that it has not even been recognized as a genocide? And so don't those women matter?
That is absolutely true. It is not been recognized yet in the United States, and for a country that uh, really leads the world when it comes to speaking about rights of people, and really makes an effort to show the world that they represent democracy and freedom and the rights of the people, especially the rights of the oppressed. For 1971 genocide to be not formally be recognized in the United States is a failure on the part of the United States as well as a failure on the part of the community, our Hindu community. Luckily, due to efforts of everybody of us who are speaking here, as well as hundreds and thousands of people belonging to 34 different organizations from across America, last year there was a resolution that was introduced in the US Congress, a bipartisan resolution, which is a wonderful thing, that did talk about recognizing this 1971 genocide. But there was only 1 month before the election, so now we have to work towards reintroducing the resolution. So, I urge everybody through this forum to join us in reaching out to their lawmakers, especially if they're in the Foreign Affairs Committee, and make their voice count so that it can be reintroduced.
Absolutely. That's a very, very valid appeal. And I would request our audiences to please listen to Utsavji and please do make your lawmakers aware. Now, I'm going to come to something which is very recent and it is happening right here on our American soil. So I'm talking about the Seattle Caste Ordinance. Now, I was thinking, like, so this question came to my mind while this hearing was going on, that Hindu women, they have been facing discrimination since the past 1,000 years or so by several invaders. So, isn't the Seattle case ordinance going to create a double discrimination for Hindu women? So the Hindu men, they are going to be, of course, targeted because that is the part of the agenda of this ordinance. But it's not clear what is their hidden agenda for Hindu women. Is there more coming, or is there more that, much more than what meets the eyes? I think you're talking on mute, Utsuvji.
Okay, uh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So, see, what has happened in Seattle is that the introduction of the caste resolution, which claims to remove discrimination on the basis of caste, and very misleadingly claims so, is actually a resolution that is targeted at Indian Americans, primarily Hindu Americans, to make them not identify as Hindus. So it is specifically targeted at that community for discrimination. And it is, I can say so because on the basis of caste, people from South Asia, especially Hindu Americans, will now be discriminated in if the Seattle resolution actually makes its presence felt. Luckily, Seattle actually doesn't have the ability to implement that resolution in its fullest outside a very small area. And if you are all following the news, luckily in Toronto, in Canada, a similar resolution was attempted, but was for the short time stalled because the school system in Toronto said we need to further explore what this resolution is trying to achieve and who it is actually targeted at. So because of that, I think there is going to be some time for the community to respond in Toronto. But coming back to Seattle, Seattle would target the vulnerable within the Hindu community the most, especially in the case of Hindus in America, women in America, because we have to remember a lot of the Hindu Americans who live in America are not American citizens. They are on H-1 visa, they're on job visas that are very restrictive, especially if they have if they have a wife, or if they have a woman in the family who is here on a dependent visa. So as it is, women from the Hindu American community, a large section of women from the Hindu American community in America feels discriminated by the virtue of the fact that they are not able to do things because they are on a dependent visa. And on top of that, you will be forcing them to declare their caste privilege and further disenfranchise them. So that is actually something that is going to be extremely dangerous for the community, and that's something that we should address right away.
Very true. And that is why I asked these questions. Paroji, Diptiji, you are women, Hindu women. What is your take on this Seattle caste ordinance, and how do you think it can adversely impact Hindu women other than what Utsavji just said?
So I think there's another flaw in this ordinance itself, as Utsavji mentioned, that U.S. Constitution is not. We are not facing like a non-uniform civil code here. There is a uniform civil code that everybody follows based on U.S. Constitution. We are already protected by race, religion, creed, and our gender. So that itself, this it is um, this whole resolution or whole ordinance, sorry, is insensitive towards one single community. You are singling out South Asians, specifically Hindus and Indians, from by bringing in this ordinance. So we are. They are in the making of, being sued at some point of time, because this in itself is an illegal step that we are already protected by our religion and gender. So I cannot even imagine where we'll be going with this ordinance here.
What surprises me most that this was brought by a Hindu woman, Shama Sawan, and we would hope that she would actually be supportive of women and she would help to empower them. This is like taking away their rights.
I think things will be out of her hand now. She's opened a very big can of worms.
That's what it looks like. So, Paroji would like to know your views on the Seattle Ordinance.
So I'm going to speak from the perspective of the impact of these type of ill thought out and ill-intentioned ordinances, and that's the effect on our children, right? Because it's going to touch their lives in their schools, in their colleges, in their workplaces as they evolve and become fully functioning citizens of our adopted homelands. And basically, it's a legitimization of indoctrination that Hinduism at its core is something that is incorrigible and needs to be cleansed. And this is exactly the type of thought process that has led to our genocide in the hands of Islamists as well as Christian missionaries and the colonialists. And here we have them um, kind of using the same tool to bring us under control, so to speak. The whole thing is, if you have noticed, there has been a general awakening among Hindus since the power balances in India have changed. And that awakening has been very uplifting. People have been more outspoken, not as outspoken as I'd like them to be, but still, they are openly um, proud of their Hindu identity. And somehow this is not acceptable for the people that decide how society functions in a quote unquote civilized society. They're not willing to accept a Hindu that is tied to their ancestral land, their traditions, and their folk stories, and all of that is coming under fire when they're discussing caste. You mentioned that Miss Sawant is Hindu, but a Hindu is much more than having a name of Indian origin. Hinduism comes with a lot of responsibility. It, every single Hindu who is awake and aware of their Hindu identity understands the concept of karma and have a high level of individual um, accountability when they function in society. And so, as with that, we must speak up about caste because, on the one hand, we're saying we left um, a society that was constantly inventing new castes. There's like what 6,000 different caste, quote unquote, other backward caste, scheduled caste, tribes. How is all that going to be managed? That's why we came to the Western society where there was a level playing field, where I would not be pitted against somebody of the same color, the same fate based on a caste identity. So now they're bringing the identity politics over here and they're trying to justify it and frame it in the light of social justice. But who is it doing justice to? It's not doing justice to the immigrant communities that are here, nor is it doing justice to the immigrant communities that will try to come here, either out of compulsion or simply to see what a new civilization is like. And the oppressed of the oppressed, the minorities in Pakistan, if they come here and they manage to get on their feet and survive, will they now be termed as casteist because somebody digs into their past, looks into their name, and decides, well, you're too good and you shouldn't be here, and therefore I need to find a way to cut you down to size? That's where my fear is the impact on the younger generations and people that are going to be coming that have no clue what's going on.
Thank you so much for giving your insight, Paroji, Utsavji, and Deeptiji. I don't want to leave on a negative note, so let's just join our hands and say one prayer to the Divine Mother in the form of Shakti, Yadevi Sarva Bhuteshu, Shakti Rupena Sanstita, Namastasya, 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 Namo Nama. Thank you so much for being a part of this program. And hinduaction.org, that is the website for Hindu Action. So I would request our audience to please go and take a look at hinduaction.org. There is a lot coming. This is a wonderful team. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. So, dear listeners, it's not really all bad. And as I said, I don't want to end this in a negative tone. But as you all can see, the social structure deteriorated all over the world. So India was also impacted because of outsiders who came to loot India. The land of Hindus imposed their ideology on the masses. So where women were, they were pushed onto into an inferior status. But no matter how hard people try to destroy the basic tenets of Sanatan or the Hindu dharma, they could never destroy it completely. So despite gender inequality and discrimination, the women, they have had a phenomenal achievements, from developing software to becoming CEOs of globally recognized companies, to flying in space, to diving deep into the depths of the ocean. Women in the 21st century, they have successfully broken every stereotype, not only in the field of technology and science, but in every walk of life. So I congratulate all the women, and I just hope that the Hindu women, they keep their bravery alive and they fight it as they have always done. And please remember that Shakti, Divine Mother, Ma Bhavani, is always with you. Thank you so much. Happy Women's Day once again, and have a wonderful day.